What is creative strategy? Chances are you've clicked on this video faster than waking up and grabbing a morning cup of coffee because let's face it, creative strategy seems to be this new buzzword that seems to be taking the industry by storm, and more businesses are catching on that this is a benefit. But is it something that you want to do? Is it something that interests you? And is it something that you actually want to pursue in terms of a career, whether you are a newbie or a copywriter transition into this? So I'm going to dive into exactly what this is, and I'll be making another video in terms of how you can come up with different ideas and everything else. This is strictly just answer that question. What is it? And that's what we're going to dive in with the cheeky little thinking face. So here we go. So, as you can see with the image there, we've got the creative and we've got the data. So creative strategy is the hottest job in the marketing right now. You can go into LinkedIn and you can go to Indeed. You can just type in creative strategist in Google, and chances are you're going to get an array of different job advertisements basically looking for a creative strategist at various price points. Now, what I would like to get into first before I continue on is price points. I feel like a lot of us, especially people who are new, we get drilled at the fact that we should, look for things that are charging eye-watering rates like 6 figures per year. And that is all fantastic, right? But we also forget that if this is something that we enjoy doing, we have access to doing this on a laptop and we can travel freely and work remotely, then that's not a bad deal, even if we're being paid more than just a standard job alone. I think that's not a bad deal, especially if it's something you enjoy doing. But that is something I'm pushing to one side, and we'll just continue on. So creative strategy roles grew by 40% on LinkedIn in the last 2 years. That might stand to change, so don't quote me on that. Things do change in the industry very, very quick. TikTok and Meta algorithm now rewards creative, not just ad spend. That's because of the rollout of Odometer. You now need to test like 20 to 25 different ad concepts. So not just like the same hook, you need to test different hooks essentially, in order to get the result. And businesses are catching on, and they need this now. And so that's what's essentially happening. Brands that nail creative strategy see the 3 times 5 better ad performance, and that's because they are testing different creatives to bring in the right people and everything else. It's the critical bridge between the art people and the data people. So essentially, you're going to come up with the ideas, all right, but you're also going to come up with the data as well in terms of how to navigate yourself around that, in terms of to see what's working, what isn't, when to switch an ad on, when to put money on it. There's loads of different ways and variables in which you can continue on and crack on. So marketing has always had a civil war going on. So you've got the creative people and you've got the data people. All right. So the creative, you've got the designers, you've got the writers, you've got the videographers, people who live in the vibes, in the moment, in the feelings. They love being creative. They're kind of like me. They're maybe a little bit on the spectrum. I don't know. I sit in a sauna, I come up with loads of ideas, and could be walking around and come up with ideas, and that's the creative side of things. And then you've got the logical. All right. So you've got the emotion, pretty much system 1. And then you've got the logical brain. All right. So we want to, everything has to be like statistics, numbers, facts, claims that can be backed up, which is all, moral and correct. All right. But that's the data people, and that's the right side, essentially, of system 2. And these are like if I move my face out of the way, media buyers, analytics, who live in numbers and key performance indicators. So yeah, all the numbers and everything else. And if you do not like numbers, you don't like analyzing data, then the role potentially isn't going to be up your street. All right. And that's why I said, so don't get hooked in like it's a new kind of thing. It is exciting and it is something new, but is it for you? I don't know. If you're a numbers person, you just love geeking out and everything else and knowing how to spot trends, how to spot winning ads, how to turn off ads when they're not performing well and everything else like that, then chances are it's not going to be like that. And just like the ambulance over there, it's a little bit of an emergency. So you are literally going to be the person who is responsible for everything, for leading the direction of the business. All right. Leading the direction of the business. So think of it like building a house, right? You have the fundamentals, right? Which is the creative strategy. And then your ad is essentially this really nice house. Maybe it's in Miami. Maybe it's in the countryside in the Peak District. I don't know, maybe it's a beach house in the Philippines, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the creative strategy is essentially the blueprint of creating an ad that holds up against the time, and that just basically does what it says on the tin. It feels like a home, it's built correctly, and it's pretty solid in its foundations, but you get it wrong. And like I said, it all comes back to the research side of things. And then the house is going to be all like foundationless. The house might fall down. You may have a smashed window. The door might be fall apart. There's loads of different things that could go potentially wrong. So you got the blueprint, right? The creative strategy, the plan and the thinking behind the direction. So let's say you're working with, pets, for instance, right? And you have a supplement to sell. Okay. And that supplement solves a big enough problem. Maybe the problem is something to do with, I don't know, what can I use for, let's say I had a pug. So, it could be scratchy ears, right? So that is essentially the problem, scratchy ears. All right. Now we need to understand why scratchy ears is a problem for the dog, but also why it could be a problem to the owner, and also what the market is saying, so we can lead the direction of an ad. We can find a winning angle and a big idea. So this comes to using your brain. You can use AI, but you can also scour forums. You can look at competitors that are doing well in the similar niche and seeing what ads are performing well and everything else of that. So that's always a good thing you can do. And essentially you're leading from the front when it comes to the strategy. And then you got the architect, right? So the creative strategist, again, the person who makes the plan. So you're going to be leading the idea from the forefront. You can have the thinking, and you can have a lot of trust as part of this as well. Now, you probably will be working with other team members as well in terms of, getting everything up to speed and whatnot. And there's going to be collaboration. Essentially, hopefully, you're not going to be just on your own, but you might be. All right. And you're going to be the architect, the designer, the person who makes the plan. And people are going to entrust you that you've done the research. It comes back to research and the idea. And the builders are the content creators, right? So designers, videographers, they execute. But again, you can also do AI generated content as well for them. And AI generated hooks. You can do UGC style stuff and look for people who can do the scripts and whatnot. Full transparency, I've not yet done that. That's something that would be interesting. I've written scripts for UGC, but I've not found those kinds of people who would then read a script myself, for instance. So if you have, let me know how it is. The house, the actual ads, right? So the final campaign and the content, voila, everything's all put together, thankfully, from the research and the idea. So moving on. Let's kill some myths really quick, right? Because we love a little bit of myth busting. I used to be in the fat loss niche in coaching, and there was a lot of myths going around. There still is. There's myths everywhere. So myth number one, creative strategy is just making content. If that was the case, then you could post literally anything. You may as well just be a content creator. And there's no real testing in terms of engagement, what's performing well, or understanding why people buy. You don't need to know that. You just post content for the sake of posting content and just throw something at the wall and just hope it sticks. When in reality, that's not the case. So the truth is, content creation is the execution. All right. And the creative strategy is the thinking before the execution. All right. So instead of throwing crap at the wall and hoping it sticks, you're instead going to throw crap at the wall, and it does guarantee, or at least 99% chance that it does stick, because you've heavily done the thinking behind it. So every piece of content, more so, every piece of copy that you write on the ad is backed by your research. I sound like a broken record. It's understanding the market. They need to know that you know them better than themselves, or at least understand where they are coming from, so you can solve a big enough problem. Someone, old mentor used to say to me, or at least had a really cool quote, was like, people buy better versions of themselves, right? So if you can do that, fantastic. You've done a lot of the legwork, right? So myth number two, it's the same as brand strategy. So brand strategy, if you're thinking this is more about awareness, it's getting people to basically see you as a business and your differences, your values, your identities and everything else. So you become more likable and you attract a broader audience into your business. But that's essentially who you are. Creative strategy is how you show up. All right. So again, this all comes down to research. How are you going to get in front of these people, and how are you going to get these people who may be likened to who you are? They may like your business, they may like your offer, but now how are we going to sway those people into taking the next step, taking that action? All right. And that's going to be more direct response, essentially, but also understanding the market as well. So more myths and a couple of memes I like. The banner ads will work because I wrote click here most of the time. Our target market is men and women age 18 to 75, marketing agency. What exactly? That's too broad. It's like something I used to do. I used to coach people between the ages of 20 to 50, right? And there's a huge gap in there. Everyone's different. There's a different life in those 30 years in terms of everything else, right? So you're going to be speaking to anyone and everyone, and that is not a strategy. It's basically a falling off a cliff at that point in terms of the strategy. So more myths, because there are a lot. So myth number 3, you need to be a creative person to do creative strategy. Look, if you can do the research and you know where to find good ideas, then you don't have to be naturally creative. Is it an advantage? Sure. If you're naturally creative, then ideas can come to you, which is cool. But it's the whole thing of like, you can be talented and not have to kind of be working on that hard enough, and you can have someone who's less talented but puts in a lot of hours, a lot of training and stuff, and they can also be better, if not more, than someone who's maybe talented. Not in every case, but especially when it comes to singing. But the analytical and the creative data testing and the research are 6% of the job, essentially. So if you know where to find those ideas, if you can be creative in that sense, if you can just how to look at competitors, you can spot trends, you can spot why people buy, and you are genuinely interested in this stuff, then you don't need to be a creative genius. You don't have to. It's an advantage, but you don't need to. All right. And fifth number 4, it's just for big brands with big budgets. Even one person business needs a creative strategy. It's just a plan. Anyone can make one. So at the end of the day, if you are a one-man band and you're doing this for your business, then budget is going to be key, as well as if you're working with a bigger brand. All right. So working with bigger brands, bigger budgets, for sure. That is a definite positive, because they're obviously spending money. But what I'd look for is people who are spending money on at least 5 ads. So they're not running a massive, essentially mammoth business, but they are spending money behind it, right? And if they are spending money on ads, then the likelihood is they might need some direction when it comes to that. They just might not have the money to pay you the fees that maybe you would want. But if it means you can get your foot into the door, if for a smaller client, and get some testimonials, even add to your portfolio, happy days. That's a win-win situation in my book. So creative strategy lives it on 4 pillars, all right? So you've got the research, absolutely key. It's key, all right? Just don't start if you don't know who you're talking to, the market, the problems, the pains, the values, the desires, identities, the skepticisms, why they might object to certain things, who they wish to become, depending on the market, the messaging. So how are you going to convey that? All right. So how are you going to get the message across? And that comes with testing various angles, right? So you could be essentially AI, B-roll, talking head, UGC, all that kind of stuff, right? And then you got number 3. So what does it look like, feel like, and sound like? So you're going to be directing in terms of where this goes. All right. So handing off to the team potentially, if not maybe yourself, in terms of the direction, and then testing. So what's working, what's not working, know when to switch an ad off, know when to keep one on, know when to adjust budget and everything else. It's going to help massively. Okay. And then research. You have to know people. All right. You have to. Let me move my face out of the way for you. You have to know them before you talk to them. I sound like a broken record, but it's absolutely key. You have to. All right. So customer review mining. So Reddit, Amazon, comment sections. These are absolute gold mines for insights. Even sales calls. If you've got clients who have sales transcripts, perhaps they didn't sign up. Again, you've got different reasons, objections and stuff that you can pull from, right? So it's always good to go back to that. You can also look for reasons why people did sign up as well, and what that kind of message is, and you can bring to the ad. Essentially, there's loads of places in which you can find it. You can spy on competitor ads and see what's performing well, maybe take inspiration from that, because if they've been running an ad for a long time, chances are it's working relatively well. And don't copy it, but you can at least have an idea as to what's currently working and adapt it for maybe an ad you're running or for your client. So that comes in with the competitor analysis, like I've just touched on, and reputation analysis as well. So how do people talk about your brand when you're not in the room? Okay. This could be your brand, it could be your client's brand. How are they thinking about it, right? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? How are you going to handle those objections? And then past performance data. So what's worked before? What completely flopped? Let the data guide you. So there's no use repeating something that didn't work before. If you found a winning hook, a winning angle that's done well, then you can potentially double down on it and create more variations of that same thing, because obviously you have the data there to back up. So it wouldn't be really much harm in doing so. All right. So it's all backed up by data. So messaging finds the angle that actually resonates. Okay, so the hook, you have about the first 3 seconds. It's probably more like 1.7, 1.8 seconds now. It changes, and it's probably going to get a lot less, right? So you have to stop the scroll. People are watching cat videos. You're using their fingers like a, thumbs, or like a workout routine, getting absolutely jacked. But yeah, you need to stop the scroll. So some sort of curiosity-based hook, something contrarian. So that's something opposing, like something like a belief, like cognitive dissonance. A double negative could be a curiosity-based question. It could be a hero story, a case study. There's loads of different ways in which you can open up an angle, open up a hook, essentially, to get people into the message. And the angle, the perspective you take present to your product, pain point, aspiration, social proof. So what direction are you taking them in, and how is that generally formatted? You can generally use something like problem, solution, action, or problem, agitation, solution, action, or attention, interest, desire, action, like kind of like proven frameworks when it comes to the copy side of things. And you can just adjust, how each section would look. And the call to action, don't skip over this. Don't look like, just click learn here. People want to know now, especially in a kind of trust recession, what happens after the next step. So if I go ahead and click learn more, what's going to happen? Where are you going to take me? Is it going to take me to some dodgy link, dodgy site? You still have to kind of handle that. So you could say something like, click learn more now. When you click the link, you'll be taken to a quick page to fill out some details. These details are great for, us getting an understanding of who you are, and takes no more than 2 minutes. It takes no more than 60 seconds to do before sending an email straight to your inbox with the next steps to take action. Not the best copy in the world, but you just see what I mean. There's like a call to action, but then you need a little bit of a backup in terms of what they're going to expect after they click the link, where you're going to take them to, what happens next, all these kinds of things. All right. You can even have click the same link here. This is the same link that Susan clicks on, maybe like last week or last year. I don't necessarily put a timestamp on it. It's got a compliancy side of things. It's the same action that Susan took that allowed her to, start seeing positive impacts of, in-ear defense formula for her dog. That kind of thing. So that's a call to action as well. And you're saying someone else has already taken action, and it's a positive result and is solving a problem. So really good. Don't try to say everything at once. Focus on the angle or one action. Yeah. Don't go around in circles. It's not good. You go off track, right? You stay on that one path. Otherwise, you have too many messages, too many angles, too many points going on. It gets very confusing, especially if you have multiple call to actions as well. Not good. All right. So keep it as one clean message. So we've got the creative direction, all right, the vibe, the look, and the feel. All right, so visual identity, colors, fonts, style, bold, minimal, chaotic, clean. Again, there's something like needs to be generally on brand. You can probably still test and everything else, but like it all comes down to testing, but on brand is generally good. Format, so how is it going to be conveyed? What's the direction that you want to take it as a creative strategist that you think will do well, or that you want to test? Like I said, UGC, carousels, transformations, feed, static posts, AI B-roll and AI hooks. How is it going to be delivered? Tone of voice, something to think about as well. If again, take the copy from your prospects. You can pump them all into AI, get a kind of like a tone style, and you can whack it into like your ads and stuff like that. So it sounds like the brand, sounds like the people, especially if they want to be someone who sounds like their brand, right? Unless, of course, their brand's really boring, in which case you might be able to be a bit lenient there and be a bit more fun. And then platform specific. So what platform are you advertising on? Generally speaking, this is mainly going to be Facebook and Instagram, okay? That's in the part of the post people sit. So hypothesis, not guarantee. So scientists never guarantee anything really. At least I don't think so. They have a, is it N1 or something? N equals 1? Can't remember what it was exactly. It was ages ago. But it's not a definitive. It's just a potential claim that needs a bit more proof. So it's a hypothesis. All right. So it's something that needs to get out there. It's not guaranteed, but it's worth testing. All right. So every ad you run is a test to see what resonates with your audience. Okay. And then you find what works and what doesn't. And then you can scrap the losers and you can double down on the winners and create new variations of the winners. and you just basically keep repeating that process over and over again. And isolate variables. So test one thing at a time. You've got hooks, you've got visuals, you've got call to actions or angles. Key metrics, look at the hook rate, hold rate, click-through rate, and conversion rate. Again, analytics help massively here. You can see where people are kind of falling off. If it's the call to action side of things, then chances are there's an issue there. If it's conversion rate, then maybe it's not just the ad, maybe it's the landing page that people are getting sent to. Maybe there's something that's not congruent. Maybe the landing page says something completely different than the ad, and there's like a mismatch there, and that can get people to essentially not want to convert. If it is more of a conversion issue when it comes to a sales call, it could be that the sales call is the issue, and therefore maybe turning some of the sales scripts into the copy might help when it comes to handling objections, and you might be missing the mark. There's loads of things to look at essentially when it comes to, why an ad might be performing, and it's not always just the ad, even though that is the shop window. It can also be the back end stuff as well that could be an issue. All right, so just bear that in mind. That just gives you more value they can give to a client or even yourself. And the ultimate goal, right? So build a creative flywheel, a system that keeps generating winners. Obviously, you can't always generate winners, but you can have an idea as to what works and repeat and double down. 3 strategies and how they're actually different. So brand strategy, just more of a heightened awareness. You're building that so people know who you are. The creative strategy is how you communicate. You're getting the ideas out there. You're giving out briefs, and you're just being like responsible for the direction of an ad. And the content strategy is in terms of like social media, right? So what we publish in blog posts, what kind of like value can we give out, and tips and everything else like that. So you're the middle path. Move my big face again. So research and insight, absolutely key, like we said. So men were frustrated with overpriced raises and boring, overly serious ads. So that could be a research insight. Angle chosen could be human directness, anti-corporate tone, position as the relatable alternative, and the hook. Our blands are effing great. Stop you cold in first 3 seconds. So that's cool. We've got a perceived time there as well as 3 seconds. We've got, a potential case quote from a customer. And a benefit, and a raw creative direction, raw one take video, founder on camera, chaotic warehouse setting. So this is more if you're coming down to the scripting of the content side of things, then, happy days in that respect. So you could come up with loads of different angles. So men were frustrated with overpriced raises and boring, overly serious ads, right? So there is something they're opposed against. They don't like seeing ads over again. They're bored of it, but they're also sick of overpriced raises. There's so many ways in which you can make that fun, different hooks and ideas. You could have an AI animated character with doing some shaving, potentially with an overpriced razor, and then just crying about how much they've paid for this, for instance. It could be finding something on a forum with someone who bought a cheaper style razor but had a better outcome than someone who paid something more expensive. So again, there's loads of different ways in which you can find these orders, right? And the results, like so 12,000 orders, 48 hours, you've got to perceived time. Again, be careful when it comes to making any kind of like direct claims, especially when it comes to Facebook ads. You do not want to get your ad shut down or even your client's nightmare. And so you can just be careful when you come to making claims. Always check basically the rules on Meta so you don't get shut down. So is it even the right direction? That is a key question, something you need to ask yourself, because, if you're attracted just solely for the money, then there's a likelihood that maybe you get into it, you get a bit burnt out, you don't actually enjoy what it is you do, and you start hating it. But, that's everyone's different, right? It could be something perfect for you. So you might be a great fit if you are an ideas person already, right? Ideas come to you generally naturally. You're like, for me personally, I can sit in the sauna and I can come up with loads of different angles, loads of hooks, loads of ideas. All right. Inventions that have already been created annoyingly, and I can't be a billionaire. That's sad. Never mind. You're obsessed with why ads work. So you know why people buy. All right. You know why people take action. You know why people click. And you love that. You love the behavioral side of things, Like I said, you've got system 1, people buy emotion heavily. And then you got backed up by logic. All right. So it's facts, statistics, testimonials. You're good at communicating and enjoy writing copy and ad briefs and things like that. So you're a team player. You can work on your own as well, but you can collaborate, share ideas. You're not afraid as well to put your foot down if you feel like something's going on in the wrong direction. Maybe they're moving away from the brief, whatever it might be. You're not afraid to kind of be confident to voice that opinion and just steer the direction. Because at the end of the day, essentially going to be on you when it comes to leading this direction. So it's a big role, it's a big responsibility. It's the front end. It's the first thing that people are going to see before they get into any kind of back end stuff, right? And you enjoy testing and iterating, learning from failure. Numbers. You need to know, if an ad is good, should they be allocating more cost to that? Should they be switching off an ad? There's loads of things, right? And if you're not someone who enjoys that, then the likelihood is it might not be for you, because if you hate looking at data, like numbers, you just don't like it, it gets confusing, overwhelmed, then again, it might not be for you. You want to be the one designing graphics editing. You write a copy, but you don't edit the final video. Not always. You can. All right. Sometimes you can create the final AI version. You can create the final static ad brief, and you can have some direction in that. That's completely fine. All right. Sometimes you just need to hand off the script and the copy. All right. And maybe like a static image or something. It depends on what the role is and how much involvement you're going to have. And you need immediate results. This is a long game. Like, should go without saying, right? Everything comes down to conversations at the end of the day. If you've not checked out that video I've done called Outreach, it's connecting new people, it's building a network, and it's taking action. All right. The worst thing you can do is not take action at all. Maybe to reach out to one person a day. That's still one person a day. It's still good. But it's generally a volumes game, especially now. People are going to be like, kind of like jumping on this kind of directions role. So there'll probably be a lot of competition, right? So you've got to find unique ways in which to stand out and position yourself as someone who's different. I'm going to go into another video next, and I'll show you how you can do that. But yeah, so don't get into it because you want a quick win. Get into it because you genuinely want to make a difference and enjoy it. And yeah, just have a good time working from your laptop. So the skills that make a great creative strategist, again, this might be yourself. Data analysis, so you like data. Copywriting briefs, you geek out on copy and words and everything else. You like understanding human psychology. Competitor research, you can find gaps, trends. You like scouring forums, all those kind of things. And paid media funnel, understanding how the algorithm works as well. And then the soft skills, all right? So idea generation. And then the soft skills, so you've got idea generation, so finding curiosity hawks, contrarian hawks, cognitive dissonant hawks, just pattern interrupts, clear communication, how to bring one idea, one clear message to a clear point, creative feedback, ability to give and receive constructive feedback, right? Be someone who is open to feedback, open to criticism, open to wanting to grow. People like working with those kinds of people. They don't like working with people who don't, and they get annoyed. And comfort with ambiguity. So embracing failure and learning from tests. All right. If it's not for someone who, in my opinion, who gets turned off if something doesn't do well, they feel bad and then they just give up. All right. No, it's, if anything, like, you learn from failure, don't you? And then you can grow from it because you know what's not working now, and you've got some new stuff to test and make better. So how to kind of break into this role if you're fairly new, with my artistic, what people think it is and what actually is the same graphic. So start a swipe file. Look for things like ads. Just click on all the ads you like, maybe generally fitting a niche or interest you have, and you're going to get bombarded with ads. If you just go to a Facebook business page, you'll get loads. And then create a swipe file of ads you generally find interested, but more importantly, ads that make you stop. And for whatever reason that might be, swipe it. If something has made you literally stop and want to read on, then that's obviously got your attention. So it's a good enough thing to go ahead and swipe and create a swipe file so you can go back to it and, look for why it might work, for instance. Learn to read ad data. So Meta Ads Library is free. Study what brands are running. So you can click on like filter. You can have a look on generally number of impressions, the length of time an ad's been running, the number of ads they're running, and you can get an idea. Like, it's not a conclusive gauge, but it's an idea as to what could be performing well. Also, there's plenty of YouTube videos out there for free that can give you an idea how to break down the numbers and everything else. So write mock creative briefs for yourself. So practice creative briefs for brands you love. You can use AI for this. You can use your own, brain. So you can do a bit of both. But there's nothing better than just writing and just practicing, because that's how you're going to get better. All right. You can pump out stuff with AI, but if you don't understand how you're doing it or why it's working, then it's not going to be good. Study the best strategies as well. Follow up top creative strategies on LinkedIn and Twitter. Find your role models. Find people you're genuinely interested in, who you like in this kind of field, and who are good at copywriting as well. All right. So that's like Gary Hilbert. You got Stefan Georgi. You've got Eugene Schwartz. You've got loads of people, right? You just have to look around. Even Alex Emoji, absolutely awesome stuff for this, right? And build a portfolio. So create your portfolio of work, right? So case studies, prospecting, even if you've got no clients, just keep it all in a swipe file, in your portfolio, because it's content you can then share even if you have no work, right? So it's a good thing. So that's a long one. Let's bring it all home. The plan, the blueprint behind how a brand communicates and achieves results. The 4 pillars built on research, messaging, creative direction, and testing is absolutely key. The brain, which is going to be yourself. Strategists in terms of the brain behind the ads, not the hands. So you have to be bringing those ideas to the table. And it bridges the gap between data analytics and creative execution. So understanding why something works or why it didn't work, and being able to kind of like rectify that and choose a different direction. Its own discipline, not content creation, not brand strategy. It's just a unique role, because we're taking pretty much everything on the front end side of things and just making sure that we're getting the right attention, the right clicks, and everything else for the business. Obviously, the back end stuff is still key. The opportunity, one of the hottest hiring paying skills in marketing right now. It seems to be right now one of the hottest ones. People are looking for this. I don't know how long it's going to be for, but it's a good idea to understand what it is and everything else. So there we are. That's a wrap. Let me know. Have you started this journey? Are you currently interested in it? If you have any questions, comment below. But thank you for watching to the end of the video, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.